can look all around. You can drive all over town.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Listen to the Vibes. And I'm very happy to welcome Guy Wall here from the Aarythmers, and they've got a new album called Cardiac. We're going to get to know Guy and a little bit about the album. So, Guy, let's start this off right, man. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana. I've been living here for, 50 some odd years, and been playing music, playing guitar all my life. I'm primarily a songwriter, although my guitar licks are getting better. Um, and I have been fortunate to play with some of the best musicians in the city of New Orleans. I've been I was in numerous bands in the 70s and 80s, playing rock. And then I took a hiatus from music when I was raising my kids. I have a son and a daughter. And once they went off to college, I was moping around the house a lot. And I said, well, let me just pick the guitar back up. And I started taking guitar lessons from Vince Marini, who was a virtuoso guitar player, and then started performing again. And after a while, I talked to Vince and I said, look, let's make a record. And so we made one, our first record, which was Below Sea Level. And I wanted to do kind of an old time R&B thing with that. And then I had a bunch of just rock songs, right? Because that was my original influence. And so after we released Below Sea Level, we decided after a year or two to release the rock songs, and got a bunch of great musicians together and did it. And so that's it.
Who's the lady that's singing on the album? 'Cause she's got a great voice.
Oh my God, yes. That's Emma Moats. At the time, Emma was Vince's girlfriend. And so we had been looking around for somebody to provide backing vocals, particularly high pitched vocals. And Vince said, hey, let's try my girlfriend out. And she was great. She was so good. Now, on um, I would perform all these songs out live, mostly solo. And so the song she takes lead on is Love Forever. Well, we played it in a key that works for my voice. We recorded in a key that works for my voice, and then decided this is really a song for a woman to sing. And we said, Emma, you sing it. And she had a lot of trouble with that because she could either go real low, for her pitch range, or she had to try to swing real high. So she struggled through it and did an excellent job for singing
Yeah.
outside of a comfortable range for her. Yeah, she moved away. She's in Atlanta now. But we stay. And in fact, I've been thinking about putting together a tour, if I can free up a little time this summer, but I'm gonna have to find another guitar player.
The music is got a very nostalgic sound to it, but how would you describe your sound? Because I can't pinpoint anything specific from song to song.
Yeah, I've often wondered if my failure to stay within a specific subgenre is good or bad. I like a lot of different rock genres. And so on Cardiac, some of the songs are like punk rock, like I Was Wrong. Some of them are like folk rock, such as Find It Again. I mean, the record was actually the #1 Roots Music Report record for 2023 in the subgenre of folk rock. Okay, it was #1. And I think it's because of songs like that. And then I have other songs that are what you might call progressive rock, um, such as Upside Down in a minor key and has twin guitars, somewhat like Wishbone Ash. You have WTF, which is close to being a show tune.
Mhm.
You have some songs like Senses, which kind of harkens back to some classical and jazz influence. The bridge of that song is rife with diminished chords. And the end of the song is a blatant use of the end of Bach's ending for cello suite prelude, the cello suite's prelude in G's. I liked it. It fit. It was in the key of D, although the cellists play that prelude in the key, I think it's G. Guitar players play it in drop D tuning. They tune the E string down to D. The rest of the tuning remains the same. And so we just took that verbatim and put that little interlude in there as a nod to one of the great musicians in history. Stand is kind of a slow rock song. We wanted some psychedelic stuff, at least. I shouldn't say it like that. I wrote some psychedelic stuff and we decided to select one of them to put on the record, and that's Nazareth. Nazareth is it's called Nazareth because of a biblical saying that Jesus wasn't a prophet in Nazareth. And what that has come to mean is people frequently aren't respected by the people they grew up with, right?
Right.
And so the saying, Jesus grew up in Nazareth, and when they heard what he had to say, they tried to run him out of town. But it's come to mean that you don't find respect among the people you grew up with. And so we wanted to make that kind of a haunting psychedelic sound. And then of course there's just classic rock like Better or Miss Right Now. Miss Right Now is sort of channeling ZZ Top and the Rolling Stones, you know. And then of course Thinking of Her, which is like classic early Beatles, you know. And that's just what it I'd like to. I'm trying to get better influences, but I'm just working off my old influences now, right? So
Right.
that's kind of that's why you hear so many different subgenres on the record.
Well, a lot of bands have done that. The Beatles, the Rolling Stones, the Who. And even though the songs don't sound the same, they still seem to fit together. And that's what happens on your album.
Well, thank you very much. We tried very hard to make it all fit together, and we, in particular, wanted to employ as many vocal harmonies as we could through all of the songs, because we felt like that was somewhat lacking from our first record, and spent a lot of time working out the harmonies on it.
What's incredible is at one point you think you're listening to a Tom Waits song, and then it sounds like you're listening to a Dire Straits song, and then it sounds like the Beatles, and then it is almost like you're breaking into Yes, but it still fits together like a beautiful puzzle.
Yes, that's very kind of you. And all of those influences you can hear on this record. Um, and it was a lot of fun to make too. We actually recorded the drums, bass, and guitar in Vince's living room. Vince was a professional musician. I mean, the other, the rest of us had other jobs, but Vince was full time, and he had this terrific studio. And the only thing that we didn't feel comfortable recording in his studio were vocals, the lead vocals, my vocals, basically, and also Emma's. And so we went to a expensive studio um, to do that, uh, and then we took it to uh, 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 the Maroney studio that Rick Nelson runs in New Orleans for the mix. And Rick did an excellent job and and added the organ and keyboards. For instance, on Stand, you can hear it uh, very prominently, and also on Find It Again, he has this tack piano where he puts tacks that strike the strings and it has a really unique sound. So he added that as well and added some guitar. So yeah, it was good. And I just before I forget, this guy that played drums, Moses Eater, is the best drummer I've ever played with in my life. He was awesome, and you can hear it on the record. On Nazareth, on all the songs, but his drumming is excellent. And so we were listening to it. We had a couple of drummers audition, right? And they were good. We were listening to them and comparing how one of them did or the other one did or the other one did on a track. And Vince looked at me and he said, so we were listening to Moses, and he said, he sounds so free, right? It was like he's totally not thinking about anything and just letting it go, and you know, as you are well aware, you don't never let anything go. It just sounds like you're letting go. What we were really witnessing is somebody who had finely tuned his craft. It's like you watch a guitar player and they make it look effortless, right? But what you don't see is the 15 years or 20 years that they spent hitting balls every day and taking lessons and practicing. And I knew it as soon as he said it, what he meant, that this guy had perfected his craft to the point where he sounded free. And he does.
When it comes to the lyrics, I know some bands will put out music where the lyrics just don't make any sense, or they want you to think the way they think. You just encourage people to think with your lyrics. How was it? Was that purposeful?
Yeah, that's all. I try to do that a lot. I try to take situations, sometimes stories, and imbue them with scenes that people can relate to. So you take, for instance, we have one song called Better, which is basically a classic rock song.
Mm.
And it's about how people present themselves to the world, right? About how people want to present themselves in the best possible light they can to make people think that they're better in one way or another than they may actually feel about themselves. Okay. I've been there. I've done it. I think other people have done it. Maybe not everybody. So it, what I try to do is craft songs that have meaning. And some of the songs have unique origins. For instance, Thinking of Her arose because I had this riff, this like basic 1-4-5 riff that had been rolling around in my head for almost a year. And when I'd play guitar with Vince every Sunday. And when we'd finish, or actually, I shouldn't even say that, midway through my visit to him, we'd start drinking bourbon and we'd intersperse guitar playing with talking about life and stuff. And he told me a story about this girl that he had met and hooked up with, who eventually moved in with him. And the next morning, I'm, puttering around the house, fooling around with my guitar, which I usually do in the morning. And I start playing that riff and I'm thinking about Vince and his girlfriend. And I just write out what he told me happened, tried to make it rhyme and stuff like that. So that was an easy one. That song was written in 5-10 minutes. Okay. Other ones, take a little longer to get, like Done with Love. I had to come up with some various ways that women didn't work out and make them rhyme and stuff and try to make some sense of them. WTF, which we were talking just before the interview about a little bit, was a song about how opposites attract. The idea was to make it kind of humorous, and yet have it rhyme and put some current viewpoints over which there is some controversy and hopefully not too much controversy because I don't want to piss anybody off. uh, and So that's what that was all about. And almost all of these songs, you want some pretty basic lyrics for us. That would be Miss Right Now, right? Because you're just looking to find a girl that night. Okay, sort of like ZZ Top's Tush, right? Um, um, Time. So I had one of my early girlfriends, girlfriend I had when I was a senior in high school and my first year of college, Retha Lee Wright. Retha Lee died 2 years ago, and I hadn't seen her. So I hadn't seen her in years and years. And then she came back and called me one time. This was about 4 years ago, 5 years ago, maybe. And we met up and just had a great time, had dinner and stuff like that. She died. And it was because I was trying to contact her and never could get a hold of her, and eventually learned that she had died. And so Time is about, we never had sex or anything. And Time is about the regret I had for not not having the courage to tell her how much I loved her at the time, right? And that one really came from the heart because I mean that's just a true story. And of course, the song is about the fact that time is supposed to heal all wounds, but even today, when I think about that time back in 1971, 72, I wince. So, it's just personal experience and a lot of having, so I'll have lyrics written out and I'll think, this doesn't work, Senses, for instance, used to sound, used to have different lyrics and it just wasn't working. Actually, I was referring to dopamine. is it just dopamine that's affecting all my senses? And I realized really you don't get the dopamine rush so much until later in a uh, uh, romantic relationship. So I had to change that, you know. Yeah, so it's there's a lot of time spent on it. Most of in fact, that's the last thing that gets done usually, right? And it can be time. I've got about 4 songs right now that I have melody, a chorus, a pre-chorus, and I still got what I call marker lyrics, you know, lyrics that I sing that help me remember the melody, but they don't sound like the lyrics don't convey any kind of particular message. And so I haven't, you know, moved forward with them. I think that's a common problem too with a lot of songwriters.
As far as the music go, when it comes to the instrumentation, I enjoy every song. Uh, as far as lyrics, I'm more partial to Stand, I guess. I really like the message that you have in there. But I mean, the music in every song is incredible.
Well, let me tell you, these guys are incredible musicians. So is David Gilman and Dave Pomerleau played bass. And as I said, Moses Eder was on drums and Vince Marini was on guitar. And these are very seasoned professionals. And we spent a lot of time. One of the things I told them was um, we want to minimize, I told Vince, we want to minimize strumming on a guitar. We want as much as we can to have single note lines, just to avoid that kind of. There's a sort of uninteresting, non-melodic aspect to strumming chords in a song. Now, for I Was Wrong, you can't get around that. It's just like a punk rock song. But for most of the other ones, you don't hear much of that. And going a little bit further on that, we had multiple takes and we would select which ones we liked the best because, you know, even though I was performing these songs, when we brought everybody in, I didn't tell them what to do because these guys, they're really talented, right? I'm thinking to myself, they may come up with something better than you guys. So let them do their thing. If I don't like it, I can say, okay, play this, you know, which we had to do on a couple of songs like WTF. But I think that allows them to be creative and I can learn from them. And by the way, I'm glad you mentioned Stand. Um, that's a song about courage. And so it's 3 verses. The last verse is sort of a summary verse, but it's basically about 2 kinds of courage. The second verse is sort of the traditional courage and was based loosely on the behavior of of a soldier in the Vietnam War who received the Medal of Honor. He died saving a lot of members of his platoon. And the first verse is a different kind of courage. There was a woman here named Rosa Keller. By here I mean New Orleans, where I'm from. Rosa Keller was wealthy, big time wealthy, and yet she was fighting race discrimination all along the way. And I thought a lot about how to, you know, what kinds of courage I wanted to exhibit. And I thought about how hard it is to take a stand diametrically opposed to what all your peers believe, and not only think it in your head, but actively do it where they can see what you're doing. And the ostracization that you can expect to receive if you do it. And that's what she did. She would invite blacks over to her house. They would be welcome at her table, at her cocktail parties. She supported integration. In fact, the city of New Orleans stopped when busing was ordered. The city of New Orleans shut the buses down, and Rosa Keller sent a driver to pick up the 3 black girls and take them to school every day. So it's a stirring story. And, you know, I don't know that I would have had that kind of courage. And it sort of stood out for me. Yeah, that's a real powerful story. And I thought it needed to be told.
What's your philosophy on music?
It changes a lot. I guess philosophy is a big word. I'm constantly learning. So I think my belief is I can make better music if I learn more genres. One of the genres that, for instance, that I haven't learned very well is the traditional New Orleans music, which is it's all 1/4/5. Don't get me wrong, but it has a different kind of beat, you know, and it's a lot of triplets, and so I'm learning some songs like that, you know, that are more traditional New Orleans sounds. I'm learning a lot of classical, and I never liked classical growing up, but Vince convinced me that I needed to learn it, and so I started playing some classical pieces, and I find it very relaxing and soothing, and it allows me to see musical approaches that I had never considered before, right? Um, Jazz. I don't have an ear for jazz, but if you stay in a diatonic approach, and by diatonic meaning, you know, all your chords are in the key and stuff like that, then you lose a lot of opportunity to make a more unique sound. So, for instance, in Nazareth, right? Nazareth is in the key of B minor. And yet we step out, we throw the tritone, and the tritone is the note between the 4th scale degree and the 5th scale degree. It's not in the key. And yet it adds to the song. I mean, so I think it was Metallica that did Never Neverland, Off to Never Neverland, right? That's that prominently features the
Inner
tritone.
Sandman.
Inner Sandman, sorry. I'm sorry I messed that up. Yeah, but so that's, you know, an example of that. The use of diminished, you rarely hear it in popular rock and roll, but in senses we throw that in. Also Nazareth, the feel of the outro was borrowed from a Beatles song, but the chords are different, and the chords that we play on that outro aside from the first two chords, that it's actually we're playing arpeggios, which you just play the notes of the chord instead of strumming it. But that involves diminished chords, and it hung together well. So that's kind of my philosophy is that I want to learn more. I listen to everybody, right? I listen to Taylor Swift,
Oh, that's it. The interview's over. I'm kidding.
Jay-Z, I listen to country and western. I just listen to everything, and and try to sort of figure out, okay, now what's he doing here? All right, oh, that sounds interesting. What's happening vocally? Is it one of those songs where the vocal range is real small, or is it one that has big leaps in the vocal range? How you can use that. So just want to, I think the best approach is to learn as much as you can from as many sources as you can. And the new pornographers has this song about sing me Spanish techno. And it's all about not getting stuck in the same route, right? The same rut. I get it right on the third time. Not getting stuck in the same rut because time's marching on. And what could be more different than playing Spanish techno, pop or rock, right? And I happen to agree with that.
You guys have a website?
Yes, rhythmers.com, I think it is. And and uh, Jeanette Lundgren manages that for me. Does an excellent job for it.
And you can purchase the album from the website.
Yes, yes, you can.
Where all is it available right now?
It's on every streaming site. So Spotify, Pandora, Apple Music, you can buy it there, or Apple, you can stream it there. I haven't kept track of all the streaming sites, but it's on all of them. It's on every streaming site, and I actually have some CDs, and if anybody wants one, they could just contact me on the website, and I'll send them one.
What about your social media?
Social media, I'm on Facebook. Jeanette manages that for me too. I don't participate personally in a lot of Facebook, but I know that some of the people want to contact us and stuff. So I had Jeanette prepare a Facebook page, and she posts quite a bit of stuff there. So if anybody's interested in listening to us or wants to know what we're doing, you can go to the Facebook page for the Arrhythmers, AARYTHMERS, and it's all laid out there for you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on my show, man. I appreciate it.
Kyle, you're very welcome, and I've enjoyed talking with you immensely.
Thank you. And I also want to thank all you folks out there. If you are new to the channel, I hope you come back, hit that subscribe button for my regulars. You guys are awesome because you make it possible for me to do this. Until the next one, everyone, please take care. Be kind to one another. God bless and peace.